Hello, everyone. Berkley Schwarz, Brad Lampley with the Tennessee Bar Association's legislative update. And
We're together
in the same room, which we are all the time, but not for these. Is we have a meeting right after this. So we were like, we'll just do it together.
TBA Government Affairs Committee meeting, which will be riveting, no doubt.
Always. Very exciting stuff. We tell them a lot of the same things we tell
Actually, you know more than what they do. And but there's Panera sandwiches. So
that's right.
We do tend to have decent. It's funny, every meeting when you provide a meal, attendance tends to be better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. So we're in these beautiful offices. I'm enjoying Brad's office decor. It's been a minute since I've been in here.
That's right.
So this week it was finance was on overdrive. A lot of committees were trying to finish up. House Judiciary flew through so many bills. Senate Commerce adjourned and then hasn't come back, but they didn't officially adjourn. Right. But they have a lot of bills.
They took a pause. Right. They're back next week.
So it'll
be Tuesday. So I guess part of the intrigue has been what is going to become of Senate Commerce, and I think they've got about 65 bills on their calendar. They will not take up all 65, I can tell you that, but it'll be interesting to see what they take up and what they don't. That's really the last remaining major significant committee on the Senate side. I think
Senate Judiciary is coming back.
That's right.
Confirmation
to open up just for a few things,
like 4 bills.
And then on the House side, House, state, and local has still got a lot of bills. I mean, they just deal with a lot of big gnarly bills, and some of them take a lot of debate and discussion. And so anyway, they're still going, and I think they've probably got 30 or 40 bills. They've got to end up next week, and I've got one of the bills. I stayed there last night as late as I could, and then anyway, finally, I'm probably saying too much, but you get some of these bills that people are protesting, and they get all this back and forth, and you're sitting there going, I don't care, I just want to get to mine.
Right.
And so that's that time of year in the legislature. So, but the good news is the funnel is beginning to narrow. I mean, we're down to, I think, probably 5 or 6 bills that we're really watching from TBA perspective and that care about. Absolutely. And then our bills had a good week.
Yeah, right? We have. Exactly. So let's see. Our adoption law bill has passed the Senate and has been referred to calendar rules, so it should be on the House floor pretty soon. Our family law bill passed Senate and House. It's just ready for signatures and be sent to the
family law bill passed 75-19, I believe.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting because the probate bill was like almost unanimous. I think people are like, whatever.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Probate was on consent.
That's right. That makes sense.
And so you're probably thinking, okay, what were the 19 people mad about that they didn't like? I mean, honestly, a lot of times this time of year, they might be mad at somebody else about something else, and then just decide, I'm just going to vote no on these next 3 or 4 bills.
Yeah.
So you don't really, as long as it passes, it's all you're worried about. 75. It was primarily along party lines this time. So, but it's not like TBA got caught up in the middle of partisan dispute. It was just, the bills got a lot of strong support. It's not perfect. And I mean, some people didn't like it, and they obviously reflected that in their votes. But anyway, it's 75-19, very good margin on that one.
Yes. And then probate, like you said, was on consent. It passed Senate House, ready for signatures.
One bill that was up on the floor this week that we've watched carefully, and in some cases we've testified against, is a split closing bill.
Yeah.
That one, apparently, a lot of the gnashing of teeth has subsided, and it passed this week, 86-2 on the floor on Monday afternoon. The real estate fraud bill that some of the real estate section was concerned about, it eventually got amended to where, in the words of Joe Kirkland, it's a win now, and it passed 92-1.
Yep.
So that essentially kicks the can down the road. It made a quick correction in the code, and then it looks like, though, the efforts to address real estate fraud that's been going on around the state. But I think the most famous example was, didn't like Graceland almost get put on the market, or whatever that story was a year or 2 ago. There's a lot of real estate fraud out there. Particularly a lot of the folks in Memphis are seeing it, and so a lot of the efforts to reform that are coming from Memphis area legislators, and so that'll be another area that they're working on this off season to deal with real estate fraud. This bill just kind of addressed a small part of it everybody's excited about. Now we'll take on the bigger issue hopefully next year and do something more comprehensive. So
exactly. So really, and we worked out, we had a bill that we were concerned about the way it was drafted, introduced by Representative Renault and Senator Hale. We worked with them, got the amendment. We're good to go on that. That still hasn't made it through House Judiciary, but it will next week. Or maybe it actually did last week. I can't even remember. Yes, it did. That's right. I was in there. I forgot.
Yeah,
it's a lot happening, and we're running between committees, and but that did happen.
Yeah, I literally had. It was funny to your point. I'm out in the hallway, and I'm situating myself down at the house end of the hallway, but I'm out there in that area past House Room 1. That's sort of the area where there's benches, and if you sit there, you can listen to what's going on in House Room 1, and then watch what bill is up in House Room 3.
Yeah.
So it's like the perfect spots. I literally sat there for 2 hours. People were like, what is he doing over there? That's what I was doing. I was watching because you didn't know which, and all of a sudden my bill was up in House Room 3. I darted over there, then came back and waited for my bill that never came up in House Room 1. So there you have it.
I mean, I think too, the great thing about the dashboard in the House is that if you're sitting in another committee room, you can see what bill they're on, even if you can't hear it.
That's right.
If you don't need to hear it. And then when they get to your bill, you can run over. But with the Senate, you can't really tell. It's harder to tell.
That's right.
So unless you're watching the video. And then you mute the video. Anyway, it's a whole thing. So this is what we do. But we figure it out. And I don't know why we think we have to be in the room necessarily, because it's not like they're like, Brad Lampley, what do you think?
Well, I mean, sometimes you don't want to be.
Actually, they have done that.
I mean, sometimes is there anybody here from the bar to testify?
Yeah. Senate Judiciary Committee is known to do that, which is a reason you might not want to be in the room. But we always like to contribute.
Well, and if you know that the bill that you're advocating for or against is not going to go the way you want it, you definitely don't want to be in the room. You need to be off doing something else because you don't sit in there and take the loss. And it happens.
It does. It happens to everyone. There's a lot of Hail Marys going around right now, I feel like, on a lot of different bills.
There was an interesting debate. This is going to get some media coverage this week on the floor of the House Monday night. A bill to give, I think FedEx, it was for FedEx, it was about $20 million of tax savings, I think, based on some fuel rebates or something like that. But anyway, long story short, FedEx has traditionally had it exactly how they wanted it in Tennessee. And they've had Tennessee's been really good at FedEx. FedEx has been obviously great at Tennessee, but it got voted down. I mean, it was like 45, it only got 45 yes votes. And there were several people that didn't vote, and there were several that voted no. And so it was a thing. And you had it was sponsored by Mark White from Memphis, who is the chair of the House Education Committee. And Mark's great. Mark's a friend of ours. But you had several that weren't from Memphis, Republicans, saying this is corporate welfare. So that was an interesting situation. And I think the narrative that came up in some of the debates is like, okay, when is enough? Or are we going to have to continue to give these sort of tax breaks to a company like FedEx? And what about the small businesses and so forth? So it was interesting. I mean, I don't, I can see how people, obviously, if you're from Memphis, and as big of an employer as FedEx is, you're like, oh, they need whatever they want, right? But if you're from other parts of the state, you may think, well, maybe we've done enough. So it's interesting.
And it's hard to predict this time of year too, because you feel like things are kind of coming on to party lines, like you said earlier, and then something else will come out, like an immigration bill that went through recently just failed, and I was surprised to see that happen. But I think people have their positions, and that's where they are, and they're hearing from their constituents, and that's kind of what they're going to do. So
what's your prediction on when we get out?
I mean, I've been trying to manifest April 15th, but it feels like that is not going to happen. But that made me feel better. I kept thinking, at least if we get out really early, I'll feel better about how fast everything's gone and that we haven't been able to do so. But I think, like you said, I think we'll have 3 weeks probably.
Yeah, I think somebody said 22nd, 23rd, something like that. And it was somebody that would probably
somebody who knows, somebody who's not estimating.
Well, somebody would look at the calendar and go, this is the day we're all going to adjourn. So I was like, okay, I'll take your word for it. It'd be, I don't know. But then we were talking with a group of lobbyists earlier this week, and you were quickly getting to the time of year when it's like, look, I don't know that I have time to sit over there through some of these committee hearings. Like I've got other things I've got to do, like cut the podcast or go to
meet with the government affairs
committee and eat Panera Bread sandwiches. So at some point you do spend less and less time over there.
Yeah.
It was funny too, because I was joking with another lobbyist as we were walking in yesterday. Somebody commented to him last year, you weren't there on the day we adjourned and you weren't out in the hallway cheering and clapping. And the guy's like, man, I have work to do. I don't want to sit over here and, it's like, it's not the last day of school. I mean, I got other stuff I got to do.
Unfortunately.
So. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It does feel that way sometimes.
I know.
And there is particularly if it's been a big session and so forth, and you've got a lot going on, sometimes you might want to be there that last day to thank people. And
sometimes your bill is the last bill voted on before
it's happened to me.
Yeah,
it's happened to me.
I know.
Yeah.
It is funny too. I was on a call with a client and all the states were updating, what was going on. And several states were like, well, we're out, they've adjourned for spring break. And I was like, they adjourned for spring break, the legislature. I was like, that's crazy and amazing at the same time. Tennessee, there's no spring break.
There's no spring break. Yeah, Alabama gets spring break. Georgia is adjourned. They'll adjourn this week because they have to be done by the masters. So that's that. And that, man, I'm jealous of that too.
Right. I know.
Well, we used to go into June. In South Carolina, we'll do fits and starts. They'll go until, sometime in May, they'll stop. They'll come back in June for something else. And so they do it weird. Everybody's different. That's really what makes it interesting. So.
It is. And this year's an election year. They tend to go out a little earlier on election years. So then we'll start all of that.
Louisiana doesn't start until after Mardi Gras. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
Right.
I know. It is so interesting how the different states handle it because of the important dates that they have. We wish... it might be nice if Tennessee, like if everybody was like, we're out for spring break. But then knowing the way my life would work, it would not be the week my children were out. And I would be like, great, how this.
Well, and then you'd be like, well, why can't we just keep going? Because then that way we're done sooner, right? Like the ice storm. On one hand, I was like, okay, this is good.
Yeah.
Like we need to be closed because, half the people in Nashville don't have power. On the other hand, as you get to Thursday or Friday, it's like, gosh, man, we're going to be, that's another week we've missed. Yeah. So you just tack it on to the end.
That's right. And the Capitol have power.
They did.
So they were like, and most of the state have power. So those of us who lived in Nashville, they were like, I don't know, take your shower at the YMCA and come or something.
Yeah. I remember that was the other day, like when we had the tornadoes, I guess 5 or 6 years ago, whatever that was. We had session the next day and like you could see the devastation from the Capitol. Like it was not far from, but it's like, we're up and running.
Right.
There's no reason not to go. So that was that.
That is the way they do it. So whether you agree with it or not.
It wasn't widespread devastation, but it was quite a lot of damage. Remember that? It went right. Matter of fact, this is the building. If you remember the crane spinning around, that was this building. Yeah. That's what that was. So it feels like it was not that long ago. But
it wasn't, but now look, we're here, cranes have moved on to different locations.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Well, okay. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate it. We'll be back next Friday, to give you guys an update and we will, and hopefully Ashley will be joining us then.
We can only hope. And one thing to keep track of as you're watching the news this week, by the way, is I guess next weekend is when they're going to make the decisions on the budget, right? And so then it gets pretty quick after that. But I talked to one member this week, and I meant to mention this earlier. The question is how much of the governor's budget amendment that came out a couple of weeks ago, how much of that will be preserved by the legislature versus how much will the legislature? Because if you remember last year, it was I think how many millions? It was a lot.
Oh, yeah.
It was over 100 million. I think I forgot the number.
They reappropriated.
I remember Leader Jack Johnson saying the governor brought us a great budget and we made it better.
That's right.
So
what did Chairman Watson say when the budget was presented?
Yeah.
This week, something like, I'm glad you're happy with this now. And
that's right. See how you are in a few weeks.
Yeah. So, that's kind of telling, can be. Yeah. So, we'll see how that goes. But I don't know. Hopefully we may have that news next week and maybe a couple more weeks.
Yeah.
But
I think it'll be a couple more weeks.
We'll be here regardless. So, Anyway, okay. Well, see you guys next week. Thank you.
See you next week.
Bye.